What a great day to be an Arizona Cardinal fan. Welcome into the PHNX Cardinals podcast, presented to you by the DraftKings Sportsbook app, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. I'm Johnny Venerable, joined as always by Bo Brock, Emergency Podcast. Bo, we have finally arrived, not to training camp, but Kyler Murray's contract extension day. And what a beautiful day it is. Welcome.
Yeah, an off-season's worth in the making. We get here July 21st after the social media scrub, all the mudslinging, as far as the reports but from both sides, Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. And here we are, no doubt about it. Those who kind of stayed steady with this, they knew that the Arizona Cardinals couldn't let a franchise caliber quarterback like Kyler Murray slip through their grasp. And they weren't that naive. They knew they had to lock him in. They locked him in, and we're seeing the reports out there. Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter doing a great job all over this thing. It's $230.5 million in total money, Johnny, and you've got the $46.1 million per year. A little important there. They get $100,000 more than Deshaun Watson, so he gets the best Deshaun Watson as far as the per year average. But the Arizona Cardinals, more importantly, have a very happy franchise quarterback in the fold for the next 6 years going into 2028. It's perfect.
Minimum 6 years. Absolutely. Let's get to some of these comments. Folks are fired up. I love this by Rafa. Rodney's coming back. We get Rodney Hudson, and now we get Kyler Murray getting paid. Presumably he will be at camp with bells on. We've got his former teammate at Oklahoma, current teammate Hollywood Brown, tweeting out support. We felt like this was inevitable. We had been hearing rumblings that things were going well for the better part of the last 6 weeks. He showed up to the tail end of offseason team activities. And here we go. The Cardinals extend a quarterback, a homegrown quarterback, for the first time since Jake Plummer. Jake Plummer, 1998, December of 98, before he was subsequently traded to the Denver Broncos. Frank Sanders, former quarterback. That was the last time. So it's been a hot minute, just shy of 3 decades since the Cardinals have drafted a quarterback and subsequently extended that quarterback. And this is the going rate, right? $46 million per season. I know a lot of people are thinking to themselves, has he earned it? If you watch Kyler Murray play, since the time he has gotten to this organization, first overall, he has changed the culture. He's a culture changer. You remember where the Cardinals were in 2018, laughingstock of the NFL, horrific, historically bad offensively, comes in that first year with Cliff Kingsbury, makes them relevant. Second year, just outside of the playoffs, improves statistically in every metric. And then this year, he misses 3 games, still gets the Cardinals to the playoffs. Before his injury was the MVP frontrunner. He tailed off at the end of the season. That's a Cardinals problem. That's not just a Kyler Murray problem. And here's a problem for the Cardinals. You don't have Kyler Murray, you're not making the playoffs. You're picking in the top 10 of the NFL draft. There are teams that would be lining up to trade for Kyler Murray, to sign Kyler Murray to an extension like this. Kudos to Michael Bidwill, Steve Keim, Cliff Kingsbury, everybody in the front office for getting this done, because I think there was a little bit of doubt as I remember being right at the combine with our GM Saul Bookman when Eric Burkhart, Kyler Murray's agent, put out that statement. Remember, in the 10 font, we couldn't read it. And I'm like, is shit going to hit the fan here? Is Kyler Murray going to ask for a trade? Is Steve Keim and Michael Bidwill, are they going to balk his contract, demands? Truth be told, they probably cost themselves just a little bit of money annually. I think the first offer that Kyler Murray and Eric Burkhart gave to the Cardinals back in February was somewhere around $42 million. It's gone up a little bit. But, Bo, like we talked about before the show, fast forward 12 to 18 months from now, I think this is going to look like a steal, especially when you look at the guarantees.
Yeah, especially when you lock in a guy like this with the just the ability that Kyler Murray possesses, the only quarterback through his first 3 seasons with 70 pass touchdowns, 20 rush touchdowns. I mean, those are numbers that Josh Allen touched, and Josh Allen was the guy that was in this position last year. This is what the cost of paying a franchise quarterback is. And you like that the Arizona Cardinals didn't balk at that. They haven't balked at any of these opportunities to extend guys who play at this level. I mean, so many people, they get caught up and they have this misconception that the Arizona Cardinals don't pay anybody. That's the Cardinals of the old. That's the Cardinals of the 90s and late 80s going into the early 2000s. That's not Michael Bidwill's Arizona Cardinals. No. He pays guys handsomely who perform, and this is a guy that you're getting in, I think, even on the ground level with Kyler Murray. And for Steve Keim, he can be walking with his chest puffed out a little bit higher these days at the Cardinals facility, as rookies report for training camp today in Glendale, that he got this one right. He had an unprecedented pivot where he went from missing on Josh Rose in the previous draft and pivoting to Kyler Murray and saving his job.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray, the job saver, is back, and he's in the fold until 2028. Don't be fooled. Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury extended through when, Johnny? 2027.
Long
Kyler
time.
Murray, 2028. They're all in this together. They weren't fools. They knew that if it was going to work, they needed their franchise quarterback in, and he is.
Kiro in the chat, Kyler revived the franchise, saved Steve Keim and Cliff's jobs, installed a new culture while making 2 Pro Bowls, has gotten better every year. This man has earned his keep. Absolutely. Like, for those of us that have been following this organization for decades now, we've seen some ups. We've certainly seen a lot of downs, right? This franchise has usually had to saddle themselves with older quarterbacks, Carson Palmer, Kurt Warner, great success with that. But to have a commodity in your mid-20s, 25 years old, being Kyler Murray, to be able to saddle your franchise next to somebody that talented, that can single-handedly win you games, right? We've talked about it before, like game managers of the world, guys who you need a stacked roster. We've talked about it with like the Tuas of the world, what Miami's trying to do. Kyler Murray elevates everybody, and you're paying him $46 million a year because you believe, okay, we're not going to go out and go crazy in free agency because we think that K1 has his best football in front of him. And if I'm Michael Bidwill, that's why I believe this from the start, especially after Kyler Murray came out. Remember that day he was on Twitter and he was pushing back and he's like, I'm a Cardinal for life. I want to win a Super Bowl here. Michael Bidwill, knowing what his late father Bill had to go through and never having sustained success, what's the best way for sustained success? You hit on a quarterback, you pay a quarterback, right? You be relevant. I know everybody wants a championship. We're living and dying. We want a Lombardi trophy more than anything for the Valley, with the Arizona Cardinals, with the Cardinal franchise dating back to their time in Chicago and St. Louis. But to get there, it's not a flash in the pan. You have to build up to it, and you have to have a bunch of cracks at the plate in the postseason. And the best way to do that, say what you want about the Cardinals this offseason, they didn't do much of anything until this. They're still favored to get to the playoffs. And you get into the playoffs, you get into the big dance, you have an opportunity. You don't have Kyler Murray. You don't have a top 5 to 10 quarterback. What are you doing? You're just spinning your wheels. Ask our friends at DNVR. They had a stacked roster with the Denver Broncos last year. But things change because they got their franchise quarterback, and suddenly they're in the Super Bowl picture. The Cardinals will be in the Super Bowl picture with Kyler Murray in house for the foreseeable future, and that's a good feeling. That's a feeling Michael Bidwill has not been able to have, even with Warner and Palmer, because there was always a shelf life, right?
Sure.
Those guys in their mid to late 30s, especially Carson, getting banged up at the end of his career. This is unknown territory for Michael Bidwill, and that's why I applaud him for stepping up to the plate and it's like, we'll get this done. We're taking care of this because it needs to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. I mean, you've got 2 quarterbacks there that were great. Obviously, the Arizona Cardinals Super Bowl appearance with Kurt Warner and what he was able to do to take that offense with the 3,000-yard wide receivers and help to, make Larry Fitzgerald, Anquan Boldin, Steve Preston, impact makers out there on each and every Sunday. But we only got, 2 really good years from Kurt out of that.
Yeah.
In Carson Palmer, you got 1. He had the MVP caliber season. If a guy named Cam Newton doesn't exist, Carson Palmer's the MVP that season. But, you only get, 3 to 4 seasons out of those guys. You're locking in Kyler Murray for the long term, and he's going to be here for the better part of a decade now with this extension. And, Johnny, when you look at this, they mentioned in the chat, I mean, as far as this offseason goes, it now does not rival an Arizona Cardinals regular season where they come out of the gates hot and fall short at the end. They're trending at the right direction. They're trending
I like
towards
that
the regular
analogy.
season. They're getting some momentum. But let me say this. Is it a bad thing that the 2, big acquisitions were already on your roster? The Kyler Murray extension and Rodney Hudson deciding to come back?
No, because I think if nothing matters without K1. You could go out and sign everybody, right? You could have a smorgasbord of free agents and draft picks. You don't have a quarterback, it doesn't mean anything. So that's the first thing. And I think a lot of us maybe were naive going into this offseason, like, okay, maybe it's 2023, maybe it's franchise tag. Like Kyler Murray made it clear with Eric Burkhart in February, like even after that playoff loss, like, guys, I want to get paid. I'm ready to be here long term. Can we get something done? And so I think that, and we had even Rappaport, friend of the program, who broke this story this morning on the show a couple months back, and he said, like, that may have played a factor into why they slow played free agency. Now, it's be interesting to see. I don't think we know via over the cap Kyler Murray's official contract cap hit for this year. But we've speculated that even with his extension, Bo, it should lower and give the Cardinals some additional funds. But I love that analogy, trending in the right direction. Kiro in the chat, Kyler will be the man that brings us to the Super Bowl. I don't think Steve Keim and Cliff will be a part of it. That's interesting. But Kyler is the one to lead us to that Super Bowl that we desperately want. I know there are people in the chat both speculating why Lamar Jackson wasn't signed first. I'll be frank about Lamar Jackson. I think he's a great quarterback, MVP winner, MVP caliber. Kyler Murray's a better thrower of the football. That's what wins sustained success in the NFL. And I think there was a bigger sense of urgency by Michael Bidwill and Steve Keim, maybe than there was by Baltimore's ownership. They're slow playing that for whatever reason. We'll see what happens. But I would not be surprised. Kyler Murray saw what Lamar Jackson did last year, getting hurt without guaranteed money in the form of a new extension. And he said, no, I'm going to go to camp with a new contract or things could get a little dicey.
Steve Keim is Teflon, man. I mean,
yeah.
If he wasn't gone in 2018, he's not going anywhere, especially now that he made the decision to take Kyler Murray on, a non-traditional quarterback, a guy who's not, what you see in a quarterback as far as size and, the skill set. Obviously it's alluring, but he was a big question mark, even with the Heisman Trophy in his trophy case coming out of college. He had the baseball. People kept on questioning about the baseball. We can end that. When you're making this kind of cake, when you're making $46 million, you're not going to say, I'm going to go ride a bus for a while and go play a couple games in Visalia. Or I'm going to, that ain't happening. Steve Keim, I think he's locked in. Cliff Kingsbury obviously has to continue to develop as a head coach along with his quarterback. But, the Arizona Cardinals in a very good spot. And you're exactly right. You need the quarterback to do that. Like there's exceptions to the rule, right? There's exceptions. You can build the great teams. We remember the Ravens of old with the defense, and they had Trent Dilfer at quarterback. You had the Eagles in 2017 who had Nick Foles with that unprecedented run, but they had a great team in place. The Arizona Cardinals,
those are outliers, right?
Yeah, they're the outliers. Most of the teams that want to compete and do compete, they've got that guy under center in the shotgun. The Arizona Cardinals have that dude, Kyler Murray. They weren't letting him go anywhere. Let's check out this timeline though. And you mentioned it as far as what Burkhardt and Kyler, his camp, really wanted to accomplish here, because I think they took a Hail Murray there at the beginning of the season for that unprecedented extension. That's never happened, because usually this is the time they happen. Like that's what I've maintained. Is like when you look at these fourth-year extensions, they happen June, July, August, in his latest September.
Yeah.
It's pretty much par for the course, right? But I think Burkhardt, maybe they got the sense of the Arizona Cardinals, we're going to kind of try to ride out year 4 until they needed to go to the negotiation table after next season. They're like, no, we're going to start this process now.
Yeah.
And we're going to get this ball rolling, because we're not going to play that game. Kyler Murray has taken this team from the cellar and put them back in the postseason in 3 short years. You're not going to do that to my guy. He's going to get paid just like everybody else. There's no difference between him and Josh Allen and guys like Wentz and Goff and guys who have been extended before.
I want to remind everybody, if you're watching right now on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a 5-star review. If you didn't know who we are, we're PHNX Cardinals. We're here every day live at 4 p.m. unless we do an emergency podcast when our franchise quarterback signs a contract extension. And Bo, we asked Ian Rappaport that same question. Like, did the Cardinals not see this coming? And I don't think there's a known answer to that. I think maybe their preference would be like, let's pump the brakes. Of course, everybody wants to see their quarterback take it to the next level. The Cardinals would happily pay Kyler Murray if they had just come up with a Super Bowl victory, right? Or a lengthy postseason run. But I mean, we can't ignore how the season ended. And maybe it was a little bit tone deaf on Kyler and Eric's part to do that right after the season. It literally came like 2 weeks after that playoff loss. But everybody gets to take a deep breath. We go through the social scrubbing, right? We go through the rigors of free agency. The Cardinals traded for his best friend. Can we emphasize that? They used their first-round pick on Hollywood Brown to get him here with Kyler Murray. If anybody thought after that point that Kyler Murray wasn't going to be an Arizona Cardinal, like you think Colt McCoy and Kyler Murray and Marquise Hollywood Brown were the tandem to lead the Cardinals into the future, that to me, that was the tea leaves of this. Everything's going to be fine, right? They're going to take care of this. Kyler Murray's happy here, clearly. And can we do something right now that I've been waiting to do since they've drafted him? Can we say RIP to his career as a Major League Baseball player.
Yes.
Can we dig the grave for the Oakland Athletics and say goodbye, Oakland Athletics? I believe they have a payroll this year less than Kyler Murray makes in his total contract, certainly right around his annual money. I think I saw before we got on, $48 million is their salary for their entire
hilarious.
I don't know how many are on a major league roster compared to 46 million, which is what Kyler Murray would be making. So no rides to AAA on the bus for Kyler Murray. He is a football player. I repeat, Kyler Murray is a football player with a baseball background. Please, for the love of God, stop asking him, media out there, personalities, if he's going to play baseball. He is not, because I guarantee you, Bo, Steve Keim, Michael Bidwill, in big, bold, black font in that contract said, no, you are not playing baseball. We need you here. Here's $46 million annually.
And Kyler wants to play in front of packed houses down at State Farm Stadium. He doesn't want to go to the Coliseum in Oakland.
You don't want to play in that
front
decrepit Coliseum that's fallen over and all the.
There's more people watching this video right now than are at A's games.
Higher quality brick than they have at the Coliseum, by the way. And I stuck this on.
I see, was it the Krimpmeister in the chat? He's asked over and over what it does to the cap. We're still looking what the implications are. I'll tell you this. I don't think it's going to impact this year. They're probably just going to ride with Kyler Murray, making around $11 million this year. And then that extension kicks in and it's going to carry through 2028. So they'll ride out the rest of this rookie contract, and it's team friendly. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals are still probably going to be able to move forward with about $10 million in cap space. That with Kyler Murray, obviously in the fold, Rodney Hudson deciding to play, of course, according to Ian Rappaport, we're pretty sure he's going to show up come Tuesday when the vets report. So, the cap situation remains around $10 million. What they're going to do with the rest of that going forward, you want your rainy day fund. You've got your oh shit fund too, if there's some injury between now and the start of the season or during the season. But and you've got some glaring holes remaining, and it's mostly on the defensive side of the football, because I think this was the offseason of Kyler, right? You mentioned bringing over the best friend. It was putting him in the best situation in his career to be the most successful out there on the playing field.
It's interesting, too. We talked about his contract. Producer Emma, can we see the contract details from Mr. Adam Schefter? Again, 5 years, $238.5 million. That includes $160 million guaranteed. It gives Kyler Murray the second highest paid QB average, $46.1 million. Again, just that 0.1 higher than Deshaun. Speaking of Deshaun, this did not get anywhere near $230 million in guarantees that he got from the desperate Cleveland Browns. So kudos again to Michael Bidwill and Kyler Murray, because we were speculating before the show, like I believe, because I believe in Kyler Murray, the player and the person, that this will look like a run-of-the-mill quarterback extension in 2 to 3 years, and it will not hamper the Cardinals. That Deshaun Watson contract is a hot mess disaster. I read today if he misses like half the season, he's only missing just under $1 million. He still gets like almost $20 million in guarantees. Like Kyler Murray's contract is not as robust, I think, as many thought it could be, especially with the guarantees. There are people, rightfully so, like questioning his durability. Got banged up the last couple seasons. It hasn't really resulted in mixed games, Bo. But I think for Kyler Murray, the biggest thing is this, and we've talked about it. Kyler Murray plays 17 games. Cardinals are a playoff team. And if that's the case, that's worthy of a contract extension, whatever it may look like. If you feel like if our quarterback is our starter under center for 17 games for the entire NFL season, we are going to the playoffs, sign Michael Bidwill up for that, for a team that when Michael Bidwill took over, and we've talked about this before, 13 of 15 seasons prior to Mr. B taking over, the Cardinals had missed the playoffs, had a losing record. Since then, they've been in a Super Bowl. They've won division titles. They've been to the playoffs. He's not taking that for granted. This is not a complete teardown. This is Kyler Murray transitioning the Cardinals with his best friend, Hollywood Brown, into the new era of Arizona Cardinal football. This represents the new era. Chandler Jones, goodbye. Patrick Peterson, bon voyage, right? Got some veterans that are older that this may or may not be their last year. So the Cardinals are taking this approach of we're going to be a draft and develop organization, right? We need to hit on the Trey McBrides, the Majay Sanders, the Cameron Thomases, right? We need something out of our guy, 16th overall pick, Zaven Collins. Isaiah Simmons, you need to become a Pro Bowler because Kyler Murray is now leading the charge because he's held up his end of the bargain. He's the first Steve Keim first-round pick since DJ Humphries in 2015 to earn a second extension. Humphries was a little bit more modest than this, right? Kyler Murray, first quarterback since Jake Plummer, 1998, to get a contract extension homegrown with the Cardinals. I can't say that enough, because for the people on Twitter, and we previewed this, Bo, that this would happen. The Cardinals were going to get trashed by people who aren't affiliated with this organization, who don't study this young player, and who are not tapped in of the fact that the Cardinals have had significant struggles at quarterback drafting, developing. To go almost 3 decades without hitting on a quarterback in the draft, right? And then, okay, we're going to sign him to a market contract now, and people lose their minds. I think it speaks to, like, sorry, we're not the Packers, and you can go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. Like, I think Cardinal fans absolutely should be able to celebrate this and not worry about the naysayers in the national media that will tell you this is an overpay, because it's not.
Right. It's not. And what people really need to start paying attention to as the details continue to trickle out about the Arizona Cardinals extending Kyler Murray through the 2028 season is when we start to see, what those future cap numbers look like, because a lot of people get kind of taken back by the sticker price. They're going to see the overall money, $230+ million, and his portion, and then the guaranteed money. But with what they have with this being, a relatively long contract, 5 years, they're going to be able to kind of spread that out. They're going to be able to push some of that money, especially what he's going to make salary-wise, which is important.
They're going to dabble. They're going to be able to dabble.
They're going to dabble, and the only way it doesn't work out is if Kyler Murray gets injured or if his production falls off a cliff. But you have to move forward that he's going to be the guy that he's been for the first 3 seasons here. I mean, keep this in mind. Deshaun Watson, all that money he was given, $230 million guaranteed right off the bat. This season, he's making 4.5% of the Browns cap. Now that jumps up next season. You hear about Patrick Mahomes signing a $500 million deal. He's finally kind of starting to tap into, how much cap space he's taking up percentage-wise of the Chiefs. Josh Allen, he signed that big deal last offseason with the Bills. He's just under 8% as far as what he takes up cap-wise for the Bills. Dak's under 9%, all the money he got. Kirk Cousins makes a ton of money every offseason, it feels like, under 15%. If you can keep your quarterback around like 14, 15%, you should have enough cap left if you're a good GM. And obviously you got to get better in the draft and development department, but and that's gonna be key going forward with Kyler Murray making a ton of money.
It's gonna be everything.
Right.
It's gonna be everything.
But it's important to kind of look out. I mean, at some point, the cap tax man will come. But right now, the Arizona Cardinals are going to have a ton of wiggle room because of the age of Kyler Murray and because of the length of this contract.
No cap implications, updates, details yet as it relates to 2022. Over the Cap hasn't updated that. I would imagine we will get a cap update here in the next 10 to 12 hours, certainly before the season starts. The Cardinals, I think, will have additional space as a result of this contract. Kiro making a ton of good points today. Thank God they got it done before Lamar and Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow, of course, because all of those contracts, we can say definitively now, assuming that Lamar is healthy and plays well this year, are going to be higher than Kyler Murray's. Kyler Murray will have a lower annual, salary than all 3 of those players. We think certainly Burrow and Herbert, right?
Thank God Burrow and Herbert aren't eligible until the final day of the regular season.
And Michael Bidwill probably thought to himself, the longer I wait, this becomes Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Now, Kyler Murray, I think we all agree, is a better quarterback than Dak Prescott, certainly more talented. But Jerry Jones and company in Dallas hurt themselves, right? They also had Dak willingly play on a franchise tag and show up. And we don't know if Kyler Murray would have made this thing messy for the Cardinals. I felt like he probably wouldn't have gone to training camp without a new deal. Thankfully, we don't have to bet on that happening. And speaking of betting, right now you can bet on the Cardinals over/under, which I believe is still at 8.5 on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Now use that promo code PHNX. Make your first deposit. Get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code PHNX only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. And Bo, I don't know about you. It's 10:25 in the morning, and I feel like I need to crack open a Four Peaks because it's a celebratory day.
Absolutely. Our partnership with Four Peaks couldn't be more excited about it. The best brewery in the great state, 48, Arizona. It's synonymous with each other. Four Peaks Brewing, Arizona. You love beer. You love your state. That's where you can go celebrate. You can go watch a game. You can go bring the family, have a great meal. You can do so many things at Four Peaks. It's unbelievable. 8th Street. You can find it in the airport. Four Peaks. We're going to be out there live. You're going to hang out with us July 27th. That's going to be a week from yesterday. It's going to be next Wednesday, hanging out on 8th Street live from Four Peaks. Also, our friends over at PHNX Coyotes, PHNX Bets, PHNX Suns, PHNX Sun Devils, and PHNX D-backs. Of course, we'll be out there at 4. Johnny Venerable, myself, Bo Brock. maybe Frank Sanders, maybe Damian Anderson. We'll see if we can get the full crew out there, and we'll still be talking, I'm sure, about this Arizona Cardinals contract extension with Kyler Murray. That's also the first day training camp for the Arizona Cardinals. They'll hit the practice field for the first time. We'll have the latest, going ons from Glendale. I'll be out there that day. Hopefully it doesn't conflict with our show.
It's almost like we timed that. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, training camp starts today. Let's all go hang out at Four Peaks, right?
Right. Must be 21 or older. Drink responsibly. Four Peaks. Check them out, of course, on social media as well.
We love Four Peaks. We love this deal, as does Pick and Spreads. I'm so happy, man. We finally have locked up a franchise quarterback, right? Listen, there were people that thought when the Cardinals drafted Kyler Murray, number one, it was a mistake because of his physical attributes, his size, and then also with the Cardinals not being a historically great NFL franchise in terms of Super Bowls, Lombardi's success, and Kyler's expectations meaning he's the greatest high school football player in the history of Texas football. He never lost a game as a starter. I think 3 championships. He goes to Oklahoma, wins an MVP in his only year as a starter, and subsequently gets the Oklahoma Sooners into the college football playoff. Okay, he comes to the Cardinals now. Can the Cardinals raise their expectation of what the standard looks like? What's the floor here? Because Kyler Murray wants to win Super Bowls. You've never been able to question that about Kyler Murray. He's addicted to winning. He wants to win. And so kudos to the Cardinals being in this position of they have this commodity now,
right,
that most every other team would want, that's not set up with a top 5 quarterback who is demanding greatness from you. Can you match his greatness? And so far, they get him DeAndre Hopkins. They've got him Hollywood Brown. They make a trade midseason last year to get a stud tight end in Zach Ertz. Then they double down on the position and get Trey McBride, who, by the way, is reporting today with the rest of the Cardinal rookies, right? They have flushed this offense to the point where in an offensive league, and we talked about it when Rodney Hudson made his announcement to come back, that's another move that Steve Keim did. This should be a top 10 offense, bar none. That's the floor for this offense now in Kyler Murray's 4th year. What are the expectations for Kyler Murray this season when you think about this extension, the outside noise of the media, right? Like, he needs to play well, but we both believe he will. And I think that will lead to another postseason berth in 2022.
Yeah, no excuses. No excuses for Kyler. No excuses for Cliff Kingsbury. No excuses for Steve Keim. I mean, they've dug themselves out of that giant hole that was 2018, 2019. If you want to count, Kyler and Cliff weren't here, but they're back. And they're relevant again because of Kyler Murray. And we talk about, everybody looks at this Arizona Cardinals offense every year and they say, man, that's an embarrassment of riches. I mean, they were talking about it. Oh, they've got Fitz, they've got Christian Kirk, they've got DeAndre Hopkins last year, AJ Green, DeAndre Hopkins. They've now got Zach Ertz, Rondale Moore, the rookie. When you look at this offense, this is, as far as weapons, arguably the most talented playmaker group that we've ever seen. I mean, just from the running backs to the tight ends to the wide receivers.
It's more talented than their Super Bowl team. Not high-end talent.
Come on, Leonard Pope is not going to play in the same. He's not starting with Zach
Edgerrin James in a wheelchair, rolling around at the end of his career. That team had 2 Hall of Fame receivers, but then there was a steep drop-off. And then they, of course, had a Hall of Fame quarterback. The depth, as you mentioned, I mean, nobody even talks about James Conner. He had like 1 million touchdowns last year. He went to the Pro Bowl last year. He was the offense when Kyler Murray was out. And then you get year 2 Rondale Moore. You get a Hopkins who should be super motivated. You guys covered that in great detail yesterday, you and Damian Anderson. That I really do believe that we could see this pivot into Cardinals sign Kyler Murray wins an MVP.
Yeah,
I think we could be at that point.
We know, you and I know this, that if we see a full 17 games from Kyler Murray, that's going to be that resume is going to stack up against most of the quarterbacks in the league. I mean, the numbers are going to be there. He hasn't, he had a lull at the end of last season. He was coming back after the ankle injury. He didn't have DeAndre Hopkins. He didn't have Rodney Hudson for a couple games. So yeah, I mean. But like I said, there's no excuses now. Like the potential that we think is there with Kyler Murray, we need to see that now on full display in 2022 and beyond. Like he's been a guy that's elevated this franchise, and I think that there's another gear, and he has to go from good to great. And the Arizona Cardinals expect that. The fan base expects that. And you talk about raising the expectations. That's where the bar is now. It's no longer, can this guy, this dual sport guy, Heisman Trophy winner, talented as it gets, unique, obviously, with his size. Can he play at the NFL level? We figured that out. Offensive Rookie of the Year. The next year, he's top 10 in MVP favorites as far as the wise guys in Vegas go. He's got the same MVP odds as Tom Brady. And he shows up and he shows out the first half of the season and kind of falls off at the end of the season, suffers the shoulder injury. And then last season comes out and gets even hotter. Is it a legit MVP candidate?
What he did to the Titans and that team that went into the postseason is the #1 team in the AFC.
Right.
He undressed Tennessee week 1 last year. Go watch those highlights again. Rushing, throwing the football. It was a absolute joke. And he made his announcement like, I'm elite, guys. And I think, by the way, he's going to do the same thing against Kansas City week 1 at State Farm Stadium, September 11th. I feel like people
they have
sleep
any
on
corners in KC? They have any good corners? I know
not.
their front seven's good.
They do not. Thank goodness for Big Rodney Hudson back to block.
They took Trent McDuffie, your boy, out of Washington. But other than that, I don't think they have anybody.
They also have George Karlaftis, who I think is going to be a huge bust. And thank goodness the Cardinals went out and got Hollywood Brown. But I'm with Bo. I mean, to me, it's like, is this deal bust if Kyler Murray never wins an MVP? Of course not, right? A regular season MVP. But
Russell Wilson, has he ever gotten a vote for MVP?
No.
I mean, but those Seahawks teams were really good, and Russ was really effing good as far as dropping back and making plays. I mean, so no, it isn't a bust. I mean, especially with what the market price is for a quarterback, this is what you pay. I mean, and I think with the Arizona Cardinals, this is not like a situation with Joe Flacco where he just had the right postseason going into a contract year, and then you're going to regret it afterwards. Or Jay Cutler. This is a guy that's going to elevate your team. He's going to put you in a position of where you want to be, and that's competing for a playoff spot and more. Now with this contract now, I think and I think Kyler Murray is great at this because I don't think he fed in necessarily to all this noise. I think most of the speaking was done by his representation, Eric Burkhart. Now at Rock Nation, he was the one saying the things that Kyler probably didn't even want to say. Just to make this thing go as far as negotiations for this contract. Kyler Murray, he's not about that noise. As he said in his first statement after all that social media scrubbing thing went down, he said, I'm not about the noise. He's about getting out there and playing ball, and he's going to do that. He's ready to ball out now. He's comfortable. He's locked in. And the Arizona Cardinals, man, look out. 2022, this offense, no excuses, as I said.
Jordan P. in the chat. Maybe the comment of the day. Johnny, isn't it hilarious? Kyler got paid on the same day Josh Rosen got to work out with the Browns. I don't know if it's funny or sad or both. Good luck to Josh. I hope he makes the team. That would be great to see Josh. Like Watson gets suspended and then Rosen's like on the active 53. I once upon a time, Jordan P., you can look up receipts. I thought this was going to be Josh Rosen. I thought Josh Rosen would be the one, getting the Cardinals to the playoffs and signing extensions. And I think it goes back to like Steve Keim gets dragged over the coals, and rightfully so, for the lack of production in the first round. But God love that man because he looked himself in the mirror in the spring of 2019 when his new coach is like, hey, if you have an opportunity, you may want to look at Kyler Murray's game film from last year. And he sat down in his office for the month of March in 2019 and watched Kyler Murray and literally said, I would be a fool to not take this guy. So again, we can make fun of Josh Rosen's return, Andy Isabella, the second-round pick. It does not matter. It does not matter when you have the guy in house. Look at the teams that are desperate last year, trading up for an unknown Trey Lance, right? Trading up for Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence. Any of those teams right now would take Kyler Murray over their quarterback. I firmly believe that. Feel like after what they saw last year, you just hope and pray you get something 75 to 80% as good as Kyler Murray. And then if I'm Michael Bidwill and I'm Kyler Murray, this deal had to happen in part because we've talked about his durability and his size, but we need to come to the fact that maybe Kyler Murray only plays 10 more years. And that's okay, right? Yeah. Maybe he plays from 25 to 35. So he's got to get paid now. Saw the same thing with Cam Newton. Cam Newton, first overall pick. Now, I think he was a much more aggressive runner than Kyler Murray. But, I mean, his career is essentially over in his early 30s because his body couldn't handle the wear and tear. Kyler's undersized. So I'm sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think one of the difference between Cam Newton and Kyler Murray, and some people will take it as an indictment that there's a ton of similarities in the comp, and I don't think that it should be. I think Cam Newton, up until his body started breaking down due to the fact that the NFL didn't know how to properly officiate games with Cam Newton, he took hits that no quarterback should be taking. The good thing about Kyler Murray is if you sneeze on him, you get flagged. Like that's one thing we can actually
I'd
say.
love
Okay,
to see it. It's one of my favorite parts of Sundays.
you just see laundry. Somebody gets in the vicinity of Kyler, and you see that laundry come out. So he should be, he had the ankle injury at the end of the Packers game last year. You had the shoulder injury against Miami before that, and then of course the leg injury going into the Rams game. I mean, it's those are just things that are going to happen, but you just got to be lucky with some of this stuff. But when you have, he's not Mr. Glass, right?
Yeah.
He's not somebody he's on the injury chart every week. So the Arizona Cardinals, I think they'll be okay. Kyler Murray, if you can get a full 17, though, you're going to have something special.
I mean, his comp is a more mobile Russell Wilson. And I think maybe take a page out of Russ's and Drew Brees' book, Undersized Quarterbacks, that as they got older into their careers, they became much more pocket passers. Their passing efficiency went up the charts. But I always do believe Kyler would prefer to be a pocket passer. It's not like I think he runs around because he's limited as a thrower of the football. But those early Russell Wilson teams were predicated on his mobility in a run game, and Kyler's really never had that.
Right. I mean, Cliff said, I think during OTAs, he just was straight up, and he said Kyler doesn't like to run.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, you've got that skill. Let's utilize it.
They've had to use it out of necessity.
Yeah, let's not drive our Ferrari around a parking lot all the time. Let's get it out, open things up a little bit, because the Arizona Cardinals playbook will benefit from it. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals red zone offense is different when Kyler Murray, when they utilize his legs. I mean, he had like one rushing attempt in the last 5 games. Like Cliff Kingsbury needs to leave State Farm Stadium in cuffs if that happens again. Like they need to utilize his legs. But sure, be smart about it. I mean, you have a huge investment here with Kyler Murray, but at the same token, no excuses. Open everything up. Use the entire skill set, and because that's what's going to take your team to the next level.
There's the money stat from Jordan P. I was trying to grab. Interesting nugget here. Kyler gets $46 million a year. And the Oakland Athletics, the team that drafted Kyler in the top 10 in the MLB draft once upon a time, their entire payroll, $48.5 million. So much for the losers saying he made a mistake. Well, I mean, if he turned into Juan Soto, maybe he could have gotten $500 million at the top 0.001%. But I think he made the right decision.
Right.
He made the right decision going on, Dan Patrick once upon a time. Remember that whole thing of not.
Was that the right decision? That was an awful interview. That was rough.
That was great. That was great. I loved it so much.
What do you want to see now from Kyler Murray that maybe we haven't seen the first 3 years now going forward?
I would like to see just durability throughout the regular season, more consistency. Probably is the biggest thing. Is the ebbs and flows of, and people are right in the chat that like he blows it up for the first 8 weeks of the season, 8 to 10 weeks. I would love to see. I was at the Chicago game last year, and I thought this is where we were headed. He and DeAndre Hopkins just destroyed that organization in front of their home crowd. It was rainy. It was wet. Kyler was fantastic coming back from injury, and I said, oh, this is what we're going to have happen. But even without DeAndre Hopkins, like not the efforts, but the play against Detroit, the play against Indianapolis, like I need to see him will his team to victories in those critical games that would have locked up a division title. But then, of course, he goes on the road against Dallas and puts on a show on national TV. More consistency, I think, is the biggest thing. But like you and I have been on the same page, and Bo and I do not agree on everything. But just so happens, like we've been firmly in the camp, like you would be absolutely lunatic out of your mind. This is our opinion. If you feel differently, no problem, to not pay Kyler Murray the going rate for a franchise quarterback. And we believe the best is yet to come. I certainly think that he's going to have his best season this year, because I think just there are too many weapons on this team for him to have a lull. Assuming the offensive line stays healthy, DeAndre Hopkins coming back in the second half of the season, I think plays to their weakness in terms of elevating this group at the end of the season. They have not been able to have a quality run. Really, I think it's like, can Kyler Murray help Cliff Kingsbury get out of his funk late in the season? I believe he can.
Yeah, he absolutely can.
Yeah.
He has that ability. And Arizona Cardinals fans, for the first time in your lives, you can say we've got that dude. Like we have that dude. We didn't let him go anywhere. Arizona Cardinals fans, Phoenix sports fans are always like, oh, we always let him go. It's always the guys that we let go and they go perform elsewhere. That didn't happen with Kyler Murray. He's going to perform, and he's going to perform here in the desert, locked in. 5-year extension, $230.5 million, Johnny. He's an Arizona Cardinal at least until 2028, barring any disaster. And then, Kyler Murray, this is going to be fun. I mean, Start me up right now, man. I mean, the rookies report today, vets in a couple days. Kyler Murray's got his extension before training camp. When you're looking at the checklist, I mean, now we're just looking for maybe a viable edge rusher to play opposite Marcus Golden.
You're playing with house money, my guy. Right? Keep this party going. Let's do it.
Let's get some OGs in the house too. Of course, yes. OG's brand is one of our favorite partnerships that we've got going on right now. OG's is Arizona's original cannabis kitchen. You want some OGs? They've got this special seasonal flavor going on right now. It's pina colada. And it's fantastic. It's the perfect way to celebrate a Kyler Murray extension. Perfect pineapple creamy coconut blend. Check them out, of course, on IG. Whenever they release new flavors, you can check out what's going on anytime at OG's Brands on IG, and of course online, ogsbrands.com. That's OGEEZ brands.com. You can also find their products in your local dispensary, like our friends over at Four Peaks. You must be 21 years or older to purchase.
It is miserable. It's a miserable place to be in an NFL franchise and not have a franchise quarterback. It's also miserable, Bo, to get COVID-19 and not be vaccinated. COVID-19 vaccines are free for everyone 5 and older. Again, they're free for everybody. You can go get one right now. It's free for everybody 5 and up. Those 12 and older are also eligible now for a booster. We want to party with you guys this fall, whether it be at Four Peaks, whether it be hopefully once upon a time at a PHNX bar, if we're so fortunate. We want to hang out with you. Tailgates, the whole 9. Please, though, let's all be healthy and happy together as we celebrate hopefully an MVP caliber season from Kyler Murray. So again, go get your COVID-19 vaccine. Come party with us. Visit azhealth.gov/find vaccine for a location nearest to you. Oh man, should we put a bow on this? It's been a historic day. This was
I agree with Tanner Morris in the chat. He says, now you got to get that O-line pretty much tightened up going forward. You pointed out several times this offseason, as far as guys under contract after this season, I mean, no starters, right? You've got Rodney Hudson is under contract, but the guy tried to walk away this offseason reportedly.
Maybe draft a center, Steve. I don't know.
A center, a tackle, I mean, Josh Jones is under contract, but he's going to have to, obviously show some development this year. That offensive line now becomes one of the main priorities going forward. Now that you've got your guy, you have to protect your number one asset.
If I'm Steve Keim, why not keep this party moving? I go to DJ Humphries and try to get him to a quickie extension here. He's still under 30 years old, a very valuable leader in that locker room, coming off what I think he understands is a subpar season, maybe get a little bit of a discount. They would love to re-sign Will Hernandez. They would love to see Will Hernandez come under his college offensive line coach, Sean Kugler, and blossom. That's a contract that they literally have right here. And they're like, Will Hernandez, if you perform, this is yours. So I think they would love to pencil him in, but Justin Pugh said this is going to be his last year in 2022. Rodney Hudson just came out of retirement. He had made up his mind he was going to retire, and then was courted back. And so, that has to be the priority. But for 2022, if that group stays together, they're intact. I do think Will Hernandez, even with all of his struggles, is an upgrade over what they had last year. You just mentioned Josh Jones, another year of development under Sean Kugler, get some quality depth. The offense is stacked. I think, the only wet blanket is the Hopkins deal. We get through the first 6 weeks, 3-3, 4-2. You're hitting the ground running with. I don't know if there's a more talented team offensively than the Cardinals.
Am I getting greedy here? Can we get a reduced suspension at this point after the NFL?
Woo! Can we put that on DraftKings?
Yeah, I mean, can we get a reduced suspension? I mean, that would be the ultimate. That would just catapult this team going into. That's where I'm throwing money on the Cardinals money line as home dogs against the Kansas City Chiefs week 1. Like if they were somehow get DeAndre Hopkins back in the fold because of the false report that he was using a masking agent originally. Like at the,
come on, Roger.
Roger, yeah. Let's show some respect to DeAndre Hopkins. Sure, he had like minuscule whatever tainted his test.
Fluke.
Yeah, it was barely there. So I think that's me getting greedy. Right now, Arizona Cardinals in a great spot going into the training camp, going into the preseason, in rolling up towards the regular season with their quarterback locked in for the next 6 years.
We're in a good place. We're also in a good place. Go PHNX.com. If you want to keep this party moving, and why wouldn't you? Become a member. Go PHNX.com. 50 cents for the first month, $8.99 for the subsequent months, or become a member for the entire year. Just under $60. You get a free t-shirt like this one, the Bird Gang from our PHNX merchandise locker. one of these fresh hats on the locker. Bo's got the white one. He's rocking our red shirt, Rise Up Red Sea. We got a ton of content. You're not going to want to miss it. Exclusive content that you only get. Go PHNX.com. Come hang out with us. Talk about the K1 extension in our exclusive member Discord. So much great stuff. Now's the time. Strap in, ladies and gentlemen. We have arrived at training camp. We have arrived at K1's foundational piece, the Arizona Cardinals moving forward. And you're listening to the PHNX Cardinals podcast. For Bo Brock, I'm Johnny Venerable. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. My man and I will be back tomorrow in studio with the great Frank Sanders as we continue to break it all down. But until then, we will see you later. Take care, everybody.